I'm excited to be with you again today. We're talking about a very important part of food preservation. In the event of an emergency where you don't have electricity but you're needing to lengthen the shelf life of food as much as possible, or perhaps you're not into canning but you want to can foods, well, stay with us in the next few minutes. I'm going to give you some really practical tips of what will can and what won't can and how to do this. Just stay tuned. There are some of you out there that know how to can any kind of food available to mankind, and there are others of us out here that are completely terrified of it, whether it's the pressurization of the pressure canner, or we just don't like the heat that's put off in regular water bath canning or using the oven. There are all different kinds of methods, but today I want to give you one that I think all of us should know about, because this is how you're going to can if you don't have any electricity and you can't just go outside and fire up the grill and do the canning on that or something like that. This is going to help you can especially dried goods or thick foods that are not super acidic, that give off lots of acids. This is going to be a fantastic solution for preserving your foods a whole lot longer. All right, let's get started. So today what we're going to use is one of the most popular versions of food preservations out there, and that's the Food Saver lid system that is going to let us suck all of the oxygen out of whatever it is that we've canned. Okay, let me show you how this is going to come. You could order them directly from Food Saver, or you could get them on Amazon. I just ordered only the lids, and I got a large one for largemouth jars and a small one for smallmouth jars. It'll come just in an easy little box, and it'll come with a Food Saver cord, but you are just going to save that for another day, another siphoning project or something like that, or make a bendy straw out of it for your children, whatever floats your boat. But they're about $8 each. Here's the large version of it, and I'll take it out. For the largemouth jars, you can see that's even bigger, but they both use the same exact process. So that's the first thing you need to get. Now, let me set that aside and show you what else you want to get. All right, the next ingredient you're going to want to get is a handy dandy brake bleeder. Now, you can get these from so many places online. This particular one I got locally at, I think it was just a Harbor Freight Tools or Northern Tools or something like that. It's going to come in a package like this, and it'll come with some extra. This is clear full of little contraptions, and that's what you need is going to be inside that vial. And then it comes with several of these hoses, so you'll have plenty for the years ahead. All right, so this is what you're going to get, is a brake bleeder, a hand pump brake bleeder. That's what it's called. Let me show you about this. This is a hand pump brake bleeder. Like I said, you're going to have a little bit of muscles, or find somebody around you that does, that's going to be able to pump this for you. But when you get it, it will not have the hose on it. So you're just going to install one of the hoses that it comes with. And this is about 18 inches long, and that's the perfect length. Remember that the longer the cord is, the more you're going to be pumping. So feel free to cut that cord down just a little bit. If you have not a lot of strength in your hand, you could make the cord a lot shorter. And you're just going to put on one of the nozzles that it comes right with. It just slides on there and is tight all of itself. Also, I will just bring your attention to this little release right underneath here, because once we pump it up to 20 pounds, we're going to just hit that little release button so that when we take the lid off, it safely releases the oxygen without pulling the lid right back off with it. I want you to stick with me, because after I show you how this works, I want us to talk through exactly what you can and cannot can using a hand pump brake bleeder. So right here I've just got a little half-pint jar that I'm going to fill up with rice. While I'm doing that, let me say this. There are a lot of folks that buy huge bags of rice and beans. Sorry about the noise. They'll buy huge bags of rice and beans, and they'll put them in some sort of storage like a 5-gallon buckets. You've seen that a lot. And they even come up with a way to seal those buckets with either dry ice or oxygen absorbers or things like that. Let me just remind you of this. When you package things like that and store them away, remember that that whole 5-gallon bucket is going to go bad at the same time. Whenever it does expire down the road, it's going to be all gone. So there's a little bit of benefit in packaging your things in smaller quantities, because this might be the perfect amount of rice for one meal for your family. So having things packaged in smaller quantities is going to help you rotate those through your pantry shelf without the problem of everything going bad all at once. And for those of you who live in areas and have written in and told me, oh, but we have terrible problems with weevils and things like that, those little bugs that get into your rice and things, a couple of things you can do with this is, first, freeze your rice in the freezer for about 48 hours before you put it in here. Same with beans or things like that. And also, I like to put maybe just a 1/4 teaspoon or less, maybe 1/8 teaspoon of diatomaceous earth right in the bottom before you fill it with rice. The reason I wouldn't dump it on top is because we're getting ready to pump all the oxygen out, and I don't want the diatomaceous earth to fill up that chamber, sucking out of this and mess everything up. So putting it in the very bottom is going to help with that. Later, after we have got the lid on, we can shake it and disperse that diatomaceous earth throughout. And you can look at our video on that to see exactly why that is so beneficial at taking care of any kind of little weevils and such. Next, I'm going to fill it to just about 1 inch from within 1 inch of the top. Not all the way to the top, but within 3/4 to 1 inch down from the top. And then I have a fresh one of these. For those of you who say, oh, it doesn't work, well, partly it may be because you're using old ones of these that have already had the seals broken. That is going to hamper this from working. But if I have one that has a good rubber seal on it, I just set that on top, and it's time for us to seal it with the brake bleeder. So I get out my small mouth version of this, and I set it down on top once I have that lid on, and I make sure it's fully seated all the way down, as tight as it'll go and as perfectly level as it will get. All right, and now it's time to use our brake bleeder. I want you to see this up close. I'm going to put that little nozzle right down on top of the hole that is available to me, and I'll let you know there's nothing that seals it there. It's just a slick surface to a slick surface, so you're going to need to just hold it pretty tight. The tighter you hold it, the less you're going to have to pump. It might be worth holding it pretty tight, so we only have to pump a few times. But now coming close, I want you to watch me as I pump this up for us. I'm going to set this down lower so you can see it a little better. Watch this as I pump it on up. We're going to get it all the way to 20 pounds worth of pressure. And it's in the process of sucking all that oxygen out for us. The beauty of this is that you're not going to lose the nutrition that you would through traditional canning that's exposing this to so much heat. All right, there it is, right at 20 pounds. And I'm going to, I can either just lift this off, or I could have pushed this little button. Either one of those is going to work fine, but I want to make sure it's not still attached when I take this lid off. I'll lift this off and we'll see if we have a good seal. All right, it's dimpled in. It feels good. I can dump it upside down. One of the ways you tell if things are canned, or you hold just to the edge of the lid and kind of test it like that. This feels very nice and sealed. If I wanted to, I can take a spoon or a knife and run it close to that edge until I can get good leverage. But let me just see if you can hear this closely. I'm going to try and pop it with my thumbnails. Did you hear the seal break? It kind of went, you heard that, I hope. And I can do it again if you didn't. But nice tight seal on that, which is awesome. That's just what we want. And it'll lengthen the lifespan of this. The other way I would recommend packing these is with a little silica gel packet on top, because the less moisture you can have in there, the better. not an oxygen absorber I'm talking about, because this is taking out the oxygen, but to put a silica gel packet on top is going to help you. And then you'll just put on that ring lid and set it on the pantry shelf. Of course, this is not sealed now, but I'll seal it again once we're done with the video. Now, let me talk you through just a couple of the things that you can and cannot do this with. All right? Beans are fantastic. Again, if I was doing beans just like this, and I canned this one earlier today, I'd put a little diatomaceous earth on the bottom. I would can them with a silica gel packet that I've made, and we have a video on how to make your own silica gel packets. I hope that you'll watch that one, but throw that in the top. Once you've got it sealed, I would go ahead and kind of just shake it upside down so that diatomaceous earth has a chance to filter down through all of those beans. But this is ready to store for quite a length of time. Also, here's some hardtack that we made a while back. Now, you'll notice I've got some massive silica gel packets in there. I recycle all of my silica gel packets. So some are huge and some are small. And these I just wanted to make sure had no moisture. So those are fantastic to do this with. But I want to warn you, in a jar like this that is only maybe about in volume halfway full, you're going to be pumping for a while to get all of that oxygen out. So recruit somebody with a strong arm to do that, because anything like this that is only partially filled is going to take a lot more energy than something that's filled all the way to the top like these beans. All right, this represents dog biscuits. It's perfect for dog biscuits. It keeps them nice and crisp. Also, these lentils you can do. I did keep this because I wanted to show you an example of what you cannot use this fancy lid for. You can't use it on these old antique jar lids. It doesn't work on that kind of lid at all, or on this kind of lid. This is what you would get from the store. But when I had someone ask me, what's the cheap way to get jars? Every chance you get when you are shopping, there are so many times that you'll find things packaged in a jar about like this with a lid like this that you're not going to be able to reuse the lid on for canning. It is great for dry storage if you don't need to have it vacuum sealed, but I like to get this kind simply because I can swap it out with this kind of lid and dry can it, or can it with a water bath canner if I'd like, and it works just fine. So feel free to be looking for this kind of jars while you are at the store buying already different things, and you understand you cannot dry can with that lid, but it is worthwhile to look for those kind in stores. Okay, also all of the dehydrated vegetables that I have, these are sweet potatoes from last year that I dehydrated. They're perfect for this kind of storage. Here are some dehydrated lemons. Those are perfect for this kind of thing. What else do we have over here? There's the rice. Okay, let's get into some of this. These are fresh Bing cherries. Now, obviously, just in case you were wondering, I'm not going to just can these this way and then set them in the pantry indefinitely, but they will store longer in the refrigerator or even on the counter if I have vacuum sealed them this way. So something like cherries you can vacuum seal and tuck away in the refrigerator, and it'll last maybe a week or two extra long than if they were just sitting out. Something you cannot do with this is acidic things like tomatoes. I'm sorry, they just don't work. Same with mushrooms. In fact, below this video, I want you to make sure you expand the description so you can check out the links. I'll give you a little link to Food Saver's website where they have some strong recommendations against the few foods that just absolutely should never be stored this way. And one of them is tomatoes, and one of them happens to be mushrooms. You would never want that. Also, potatoes that give off gases, you wouldn't do that with. However, lo and behold, you can do this with apples. The thing is you couldn't do it with a whole apple like this. What you would want to do if you were storing these vacuum sealed is slice the apple up, go ahead and dip it in a little bit of fresh lemon juice so that it doesn't turn brown. But once you've sliced that apple up, dipped it in some lemon juice, and then you can just pack a jar full and vacuum seal it. And again, it won't last in your pantry, but it would last in the refrigerator beautifully for about 1 to 2 weeks longer than it would if you hadn't done that. All right, you can also do potato chips. These are fantastic if you want them to stay crisp. All kinds of cereals. This is perfect for storing cereals that you like to have nice and crisp and crunchy. And incidentally, here's some rhubarb jam. Now, the rhubarb jam I generally water bath can, almost always. But if you're just wanting to, say, make refrigerator preserves, you've heard of that before, a way to keep them longer because their normal refrigerated shelf life is usually about 2 weeks. If you want to stretch that out to 4 weeks, you can do that just fine with this. Now, I wouldn't do it with super just thin watery, but I would do it with thick preserves, and you would want to make sure that you kept at least 1 inch of space between the top of the preserves and the canning lid, because you don't want to suck any of that preserves up into that little nozzle and ruin the whole process of this. But it will do stuff like this. And there are probably other things I haven't covered. I want you to experiment, do your own research. Of course, that's very important. You're going to hear people say, I just couldn't make it work, and I want to suggest to them that they may have the gasket just a little bit. See, it has a removable gasket. They may have that out of line, or they may not have it fully flush on top. I know it's very easy for me to get it a little bit hawk skewy, or whatever word you like to use for that. It needs to be perfectly flush and perfectly down tight for it to work. But this is a fantastic solution for lengthening the life of all of your stored goods that you're able to do this method with. All right, I want to hear from you. What ways do you like to preserve your foods to last indefinitely, but can also be done again and again? That's why I love this so much, is because I can seal this today. Tomorrow I can use half of it, and then I can just reseal it right then. Oh, also coffee beans. Oh my goodness, if you want your coffee to last longer, this is a perfect way to store your coffee beans so they're not just in a bag in the cupboard that goes bad after just a few days. All right, write to us, tell us what you like to preserve and how you like to do it. If you have a better method or some tips that you'd like to share on this, will you do that? Because we want to hear from you. Also, take the time to share this with somebody you love. And I hope we'll see you next time. Until we do, will you take the time to intentionally go out and be a blessing to someone today?
Before you go, let me share this verse with you. Psalm 34, verse 8. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Now go spread the word.